It usually happens at night. You're lying in bed, almost asleep. The room is quiet. And then, without warning, a thought arrives. Not loud, just clear. One day, I won't be here. And for a second, maybe longer, something in your chest tightens. You shift. You reach for your phone. You think about something else. Anything else. And within a few minutes, you've moved on. But you haven't, really. You've just gotten very good at moving away from it. Almost every human being alive shares this experience. The 3 a.m. thought. The quiet moment in a funeral that turns suddenly personal. The second after a near miss in traffic when time briefly stops and you see something you don't want to see. And here's what genuinely fascinates me, as someone who studies why human beings think and feel the way they do. The fear of dying isn't a malfunction. It's one of the most sophisticated systems your brain has ever built. And understanding it, really understanding it, might be the most clarifying thing you ever do. Let me ask you something honestly. How much of your life is quietly organized around not thinking about death? Not in an obvious way, not in a dramatic way, but in the small, daily, almost invisible ways. The busyness you never question, the plans you keep making, the purchases that feel like permanence, the reasons you haven't said the important things to the people who matter. If you've ever felt a vague, sourceless anxiety that you couldn't quite explain, you're not alone, and you're not broken. Sometimes what feels like overthinking, restlessness, or a quiet feeling that something is wrong is the brain running its death awareness program in the background, just below the level of conscious thought. Psychologists have a name for this, terror management theory, and it suggests that a vast amount of human behavior, our ambitions, our status seeking, our need to belong, our fear of being forgotten, is quietly driven by one thing underneath it all. Think about the 41-year-old who can't stop working, not because he loves it, but because stopping means sitting with something he doesn't know how to name. Or the woman who fills every weekend with plans, every silence with noise, every moment with something, anything that keeps the quiet from getting too quiet. Or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe it's just you at 3 a.m. reaching for your phone. This isn't weakness. This is what it looks like to be human in a brain that knows it's going to die and has never quite figured out what to do with that information. So why does the brain react to death the way it does? Here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. Your brain is a prediction machine. Its entire job, its one obsession, is to keep you alive and to model what comes next. And death is the one event it cannot model. It cannot predict what dying feels like from the inside. It cannot simulate non-existence. And a brain that cannot predict something treats it as an unresolvable threat. Researchers at the University of Arizona studying terror management theory found something that reframes this entire conversation. When people were subtly reminded of their own mortality, even just walking past a funeral home, they became measurably more defensive of their worldview, more attached to their cultural identity, and more hostile to people who were different from them. What that means for you is this: the fear of death isn't just a private emotion. It's quietly shaping your opinions, your relationships, and your decisions without you ever realizing it's the thing driving. Be honest, have you ever doubled down on a belief not because of evidence, but because changing it felt like losing something essential about who you are? That might be loss aversion, but underneath it, sometimes much deeper underneath, there's this: the brain clinging to meaning, because meaning is the only armor it has against the thing it cannot solve. And here's the quiet revelation at the center of all this research. The people who live most fully are rarely the ones who've stopped fearing death. They're the ones who've stopped letting that fear make their decisions for them. So what do you actually do with this? I want to be careful here, because this isn't about eliminating the fear of dying. That's not the goal, and it's not possible. What's possible is something more useful, developing a relationship with mortality that makes you more alive, not less. I know how that sounds. Stay with me. Technique 1, mortality salience reframing. Terror management theory. Jeff Greenberg, Sheldon Solomon, Tom Pischinsky. Why it works? Research shows that conscious, deliberate engagement with mortality, as opposed to unconscious avoidance, reduces the defensive, anxiety-driven behaviors that death awareness typically triggers. When you bring the thought into the light on your own terms, it loses the power it has at 3 a.m. Daily practice? Once a week, spend 5 quiet minutes with one honest question. If I knew I had 1 year left, what would I stop doing? Not to be morbid, to get honest. Your answers are a map of what your fear has been quietly editing out of your life. In relationships, the next time you're with someone you love, notice if there's something important you've been not saying. Death awareness used consciously becomes a permission slip to say the thing, to have the conversation, to stop waiting for the right moment that your brain has been indefinitely postponing. Technique 2, meaning-making therapy. Existential psychology, Irvin Yalom, Stanford University. Why it works? Irvin Yalom at Stanford spent decades working with terminally ill patients and discovered something counterintuitive. Confronting death directly and honestly reliably produced more clarity about how to live, not more despair. The brain fears meaninglessness more than it fears death itself. When you build genuine meaning, the fear loses its grip. At work, ask yourself honestly, does this work feel meaningful to me? Or am I using busyness to avoid something? You don't have to quit your job, but you do have to be honest about the answer. Meaning isn't found in productivity, it's found in the question. At home, write down 3 things that would make your life feel genuinely complete. Not impressive, not Instagram-worthy, just yours. Then ask how much of your actual time goes toward those 3 things. The gap between that list and your calendar is where death anxiety lives. Technique 3, acceptance-based exposure. Acceptance and commitment therapy, Stephen Hayes. Why it works? Avoidance amplifies fear. Every time your brain successfully avoids thinking about death, it logs, that thought was dangerous enough to run from. Controlled, deliberate exposure on your own terms at your own pace gradually teaches the nervous system that the thought can be held without being destroyed by it. Starting small, read one honest account of someone who faced a terminal diagnosis and found unexpected clarity, not to be sad, but to borrow their perspective for a moment. Their vantage point is one your brain normally won't let you access. It's information about what actually matters, from someone who had no choice but to find out. Over time, notice the moments you reach for distraction, the phone, the noise, the busyness, and occasionally, just occasionally, don't. Sit for 2 minutes with the quiet instead. You're not wallowing, you're practicing the thing your brain has been avoiding and discovering that you can hold it without breaking. The goal isn't to make peace with death in some abstract philosophical way. The goal is to stop letting the fear of it quietly run your life and start making decisions from the part of you that knows what actually matters. Here is the thing I want you to carry with you from this. The fear of dying isn't the enemy. It never was. It's information. It's your brain's way of telling you that this life, this moment, these people matters. The fear exists because something worth protecting exists. You don't fear losing things that mean nothing. You aren't broken for lying awake at 3 a.m. You aren't weak for reaching for your phone. You were a human being carrying the weight of awareness that every human being carries, without a manual, without anyone to tell you that what you were feeling had a name. Now it has a name, and names give you something to work with. Drop a comment. When did you first become aware that you were going to die, and how did that change something in you? I read every single one.